everyone. How are we doing this evening? This is Chase with CR Media. To my right is my friend Josh at The Real Josh Elliott. This is our AEW Dynamite post show where we're just two guys chatting about something we absolutely positively love, professional wrestling. And, this is a time where the two of us can come together. Josh likes watching AEW. I like watching AEW as well. So this is just kind of an opportunity for us to share that passion with you guys. So that's our introduction this week. This is our second show. If you missed the first show, you can definitely find it on the usuals, the Facebook, the Twitter, the YouTube, and my Twitch as well, in my history on the Twitch. So, real quick before we get into that, if you haven't, I would appreciate it if you hit that like button, that share button, get it out to everybody. Obviously, the more exposure, the better it helps us, and that is greatly appreciated. Josh, how are you doing this week, man?
I'm doing great, man. I'm doing great. It was a great show tonight. Really enjoyed it. Can't wait to get started.
Awesome. Yeah. So they kicked off the show with a strong match. Which I kind of like how AEW does that. And you and I spoke last week a little bit about how the matches can be rearranged
Right.
in our eyes. How we would have started the show off with this match, ended with this match. I kind of had that feeling again this week, where I would have probably started, or I probably would have ended the show with a different match than it did. But the Max Caster CM Punk's to start it off was perfect again. I don't think it took anything away from anybody. Max Caster is extremely entertaining. The Acclaimed is entertaining. Kind of jumping into this, man. What did you like about this match?
I love the Acclaimed. I love almost every one of their raps as they come to the ring. You got that Will Smith reference from the Oscars, so we knew that was coming. But also, the match was great. I mean, to reference back to the old WCW days and pay-per-views where they used to lead pay-per-views off with banger cruiserweight matches. This was not necessarily a cruiserweight match, but it was a match that got you excited for the show. And and both men were great. Like I said, I love both the Acclaimed, both members of them, and I think that for what it was, I think the match was a great starter. And also the fact that, this is 2 weeks in a row now, maybe more, 2 weeks since doing this podcast, that Punk has won with the Anaconda Vice.
Yes.
So great match.
I've liked that as well, that Punk has gone back to using the Anaconda Vice. I love the GTS, the go to sleep, but it's just a nice nostalgic touch to see him kind of sprinkle in a little bit of that. So Max Caster's rap was hilarious. The Will Smith reference, if I hadn't had the Will Smith and Chris Rock thing crammed down my throat all week, it probably would have been a little bit more funny than it was. But the part that made me just laugh hysterically was the comment about the Z-Pack and shit in his pants.
Right.
Because Punk had mentioned on Cole Cabana's podcast when he did that interview that, he was so Z-Packed out. He had MRSA and all this other stuff. Later on, he found out he had MRSA, but he was always sick, and he was claiming, WWE's doctors were always cramming Z-Packs down his throat. And he actually wound up shitting himself in the middle of a match one time. And So that line got me really good.
Yep.
And then Max Caster and Anthony Bowens doing the scissors with their fingers every single time. It just, yeah, maybe it's the sophomore, the sophomore teenage sense of humor I have, but I crack up every single time they do
That's great.
Yeah. After the match, after Punk, gave him the Anaconda Vice, he got in the ring and, well, I mean, he was already in the ring, Chase. But they got in the ring to interview him, and they mentioned that last week, or like within the past few times they've seen Punk, he has done the universal signal about a title, and Punk made it clear that whether it's Adam Page or it's Adam Cole, he's going after it. So
Officially
very
calling him
interesting.
out.
Yep. It was it's very interesting to see that. I would love to see him and Cole go at it, and then again, I'd love to see him and Page go at it. If they, not knowing what's going to happen in the future with the, not knowing what's going to happen in the future with ROH, but man, it would be really fun to watch them do something with ROH together. Cole and Punk, both coming from that area. I know. There's been plenty of wrestlers who have, but I would really like to see Cole and Punk do something. And I'm sure they will, whether it's for the title next or not, whether they have Hangman drop the title to Cole, no matter what the situation is with that. But going to be very interesting. The next segment, they had MJF with FTR. And MJF had mentioned that he had hired Mark Sterling. And Mark Sterling was seen posting up a bunch of pictures of Wardlow, and I guess we don't mention Wardlow's name. My kids make a lot of reference to the El Canto movie. We don't talk about Bruno. So we don't talk about Wardlow. So
unless your name is MJF, then you cannot mention Wardlow's name, because I'll bring this up later, because MJF brings up Wardlow on commentary later. But anyway, nonetheless.
Because on commentary later on during that, he had mentioned, hey, we don't talk about Wardlow, and we don't talk about CM Punk. And then, he mentions them. But so, and FTR had mentioned, especially, Dax. Dax had mentioned, hey, like, Wardlow's our friend. We're not going to get in the middle of this, and MJF. And what's funny is I wrote it down in my notes as I'm watching it live. Hey, like, are we hinting at a possible FTR turn? Especially with, the rumors going around that, Bret Hart could possibly come in and be a mentor or a manager, whatever role Bret plays with FTR, which would be very, very odd, or not odd, but I don't know if it would work with them being a heel, because I think if in any aspect, if Bret comes back, Bret's going to get, cheered through the roof.
He'll get cheered, right, for sure.
Yeah. Very interesting. I mean, it seems like the Pinnacle is. It seems like they're doing away with a lot of those groups that they started off with. Obviously, the Inner Circle is gone. The Elite, the Pinnacle now is crumbling. So, we still have the Jericho Appreciation Society. But
yes, we did.
So
for me on this, on the Pinnacle, I want to, we can talk about it later too as well, but I'm going to throw out a Chase level take here. I feel like what they're going to do with this is that they're going to, for Dax and how he acted in this promo about how he's friends with Wardlow and all that, I think that FTR is going to play up just exactly the same way that Wardlow did. And it's going to play out to where we're expecting the turn. And I think in the end, everyone's going to expect that turn, and then it's going to flip flop, and FTR is going to help MJF, and they're going to stay together, and they're not going to turn. It's going to be just all a show, and they're going to turn on Wardlow. They may seem like they're going to join them, but they're going to end up turning on them.
Gotcha. That's interesting that you say that. Now I will say I don't know if that's a compliment or an insult on a Chase level take, but I'm gonna take it. But I'm gonna take it as a compliment. So
there you
go. Yeah, no, I can see. I just, and I was going to wait to talk about this later because, obviously when we get into the FTR match, obviously if you're watching this show or if you watch this show later, you've obviously seen Dynamite. It's not a watch along. So, the point is FTR. It looks like FTR is moving towards a face turn, and for me, it just doesn't work with those guys. Especially like later on in the show, FTR mentions, that they want to be taken seriously,
right?
But they're walking around with those AAA tag team titles, and when they won those AAA tag team titles, they were obviously making a humongous mockery out of it, being heels and doing heel things. So it was just, I just don't know if it's too early. But like I said, if the rumors are true about Brett, it would be hard to boo for them if they've got Brett running around with them. So
right.
The next was Jay Lethal versus Jon Moxley. Break this down for me, sir.
The match itself wasn't a bad match. It really wasn't. But the fact that they put this on a Dynamite against Jay Lethal against Jon Moxley, knowing sure well that Jon Moxley is not going to lose this match. My notes is that if they built this match up onto a pay-per-view main event, I would pay to watch that match alone. That match is a pay-per-view worthy main event. But the fact that they put him Lethal up against Moxley, where they're still building up this, what is it? The Black or what's the name of the stable?
Blackpool Combat Club.
Yeah, Blackpool Combat Club. Yeah. So they're not going to obviously make either Danielson or Moxley lose when they're building this up. So that's my only complaint. We talked off air a little bit about that too, but I don't think it sucks. I really like Jay Lethal. I think Jay Lethal is a great, performer, great wrestler, and just going into this match, you already knew the outcome, and that's what sucked.
Yeah, that was my complaint about it too. The match itself was damn good. Yep. It was hard hitting. You got Moxley's rough style against Jay Lethal, and it was a very well meshed match. And my problem is that I just don't know what they're doing with Jay Lethal. They brought Jay Lethal in. That was huge because, at the time that they brought Jay Lethal in, it was, hey, ROH isn't closing. We're taking a break. We're going to non-renew some contracts and we're going to take a break and then we'll see what happens after the beginning of the year. This was back when they announced it. And then Jay Lethal jumped ship. He became All Elite. And there was a lot of that talk of, well, maybe AEW is doing something where, they're letting some people, we saw it with Jay White. We saw it with, we've seen it with other guys, from other companies come in and do a little bit of work, some New Japan guys. So, but this was a legit signing. AEW signed Jay Lethal to a contract. and then it was crickets after that. And I try to catch Dark and Dark Elevation as much as I can, man. But between WWE, Impact, AEW, and I try to catch some YouTube, independent stuff. I watch a show on Twitch called Putting You Over, and they promote a lot of indie stuff, and so I'll try and catch a lot of that. And so, I just don't have enough. I don't have a lot of time to watch Dark and Dark Elevation.
Right.
But I guess Jay Lethal has spent a lot of his time there. And my question is, why? What are we doing? Why is Jay Lethal on Dark and Dark Elevation? And now the 2 times that you've brought him on TV, you've had him lose. So now people who aren't 100% familiar with Jay Lethal, or people who would watch, or people who watched TNA 10 years ago who knew who Jay Lethal was then, Black Machismo and all that other stuff. Since he's left TNA, there's not a lot of people who are familiar with him. Right. And now you've brought him back, and I mean, he's a goddamn jobber. I mean, so it looks like,
yeah,
it's just, they've got him off TV. They bring him on TV to make him lose. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it's and there's a couple of things that have kind of irritated me about this, and my stance is the same. I'm a big AEW mark. I hate that term, but I'll use it to make fun of myself. But I just, it's confusing on situations like this. But this was a damn good match, and regardless of, Lethal doesn't have to win every single televised match. It's just, he's off TV so much, and then they bring him on and have him lose. So
right,
that was my big pet. Or like I watched the CM Punk match, and I was like, man, Punk did a good job of making Max look good. And then we come to this match, and it's like, Jay still looked good. So accentuate the positives and hide the negatives, as Paul Heyman would say. So,
right. So just to kind of move on a little bit, we do have a short video package right between the next 2 matches for a Marina Shafir. Have you seen any of her matches in AEW?
I have, and she looks really good. She's dyed her hair. She's in phenomenal shape. Not that she wasn't in shape in NXT, but that's Roderick Strong's wife.
I do.
Yep. That's one of the 4 horsewomen. So the 4 horsewomen of MMA.
Right.
So I am very curious that they are building her up, and as we've seen in AEW, that AEW doesn't have a great track record with their women's division, which is funny because I still think WWE's women's division is lackluster, but it's unfortunately it's better than AEW's. So my question is, do you think Marina Shafir is going to get pushed to the moon because of her MMA background?
She'll definitely get a push. I'm not sure if they'll push her as hard as they have with, Jade Cargill or even Britt Baker, but I think she will get she'll definitely, we can talk about it now because it was just a promo package, but Jade Cargill's promo later in this night, Mark Sterling says that Leva. Well, first she says Leva Bates is going to be the 30th, and Jade says no, it's not going to be a joke, which then makes Leva cry. She walks off. Literally, unless Leva's wrestling on Dark and Elevation, I have not seen Leva Bates in forever. Almost forgot about her. You know.
Yeah, I was going to massively shit on that as well.
Yeah.
You know.
But Marina Shafir being the next challenger. Now, for me, I've only seen a handful of her matches. I've seen a couple of her matches in AEW, and I was a little bit familiar with her in NXT. I quit watching WWE a while ago, as you know, but I think it's going to be if built correctly, which is going to be next week, right? Is that the Marina Shafir? Yeah. So not much time to build it, but it should be a pretty good match, in my opinion. Two big women, getting it. I'm a fan of Jade, so and I'm sure she'll keep the title. There's
of course,
no reason to take it off of her yet, but so
I'm excited for the match on paper. I'm not excited for the match in the ring.
Right.
Jade has to be in a match where somebody can carry her. I just don't know if Marina, Marina wrestled a little bit in NXT, not a whole lot. There wasn't a whole lot of showcase there. But I don't know if Marina has the ability to carry Jade. So I don't know how long that match will stay before it gets stiff. Bad. So I mean, we'll see, but I'm like I said, I'm optimistic about it. I'm excited for Marina to be. I was kind of irritated when they announced that they had released them, because I knew at some point when WWE released Marina, I was a little irritated because I knew at some point Ronda would come back, and I thought that would be a great heel run for Ronda. Which by the way, I don't know if you followed WWE, but Ronda is not a heel. She is a white meat babyface, and she's doing awful at it. Awful.
And she's facing Charlotte, right?
Yeah. And
okay.
she obviously this is AEW Dynamite, but they obviously missed the mark there, because I mean, when somebody's bashing wrestling and wrestling fans, in their house, they come back, and there's a lot of people who wanted to see her be a heel. I thought it would have been really cool to see her be a heel and utilize the other 3-4 horsewomen to help her out. Like I said, WWE missed the mark on that, or maybe I'm just an idiot and I don't know what I'm talking about. But which could be possible. But I'm excited that she's getting an opportunity in AEW. So,
yep.
The segment the segment after this, or match, sorry, is the Gun Club versus FTR. And MJF comes out on commentary, and Tony and MJF just cracked my shit up. Just because I wrote down Tony and MJF here. I didn't write down exactly what was said, but there was a lot of there was an especially funny exchange between the two when MJF very first sat down. So. I always read and always get a lot of feedback from people that AEW has that their commentary table gets a little bit clustered. I like the trio, and I like it when they add somebody in. I don't think Dark gets funny, because Taz and Mark Henry will sometimes just not stay in character.
Right.
And they'll shit on something or whatever. But as far as Dynamite goes, I don't have an issue with the commentary team and how many people are on it. So when MJF comes, or sometimes they'll have other people sit down, it's a nice it's a nice touch to have that. So
Yep.
I've always enjoyed when wrestlers will come down to commentary and join in. So
Yep.
that's something it's something I'm a sucker for. You know, you get a good heel come sit down with the commentary table, and on WWE, if Miz does it and him and Corey Graves are shooting the shit, and then you know Michael
Yep.
Cole's Michael Cole or whoever that guy is on Raw now will tell Corey Graves to knock it off and stop kissing ass. It's the same thing. I've just always been a sucker for it.
Yep.
FTR was pretty cool that I don't you noticed their outfits was a Scott Hall tribute.
Yep.
I thought that was a nice touch.
Yep.
JR mentioned during the match that FTR reminded him of the Midnight Express, in that a way that they're old school, but they've got that new school feeling still, um, and that the Midnight Express was that way. That they were ages before their time, and I thought that was a great comment by JR, and kind of going back to the commentary thing. That's why I I understand he makes a few mistakes, but I love having JR on commentary. He's always been a nice touch. So
For sure. For sure. I don't know, a couple spots in this match, and I don't know, we could probably get to it. So speaking of commentary, I will mention the going back to what we said earlier about how MJF was pissed that Wardlow was mentioned. His comments, the first thing he says when he sits down and puts the headset on is, "We used to say, 'Where's Waldo?' Now we're saying, 'Where's Wardlow?'" And he just says his name right off the bat.
yeah,
So, that was the first thing I wrote down. Couple spots in the match though. The match was great itself. I love FTR, and the Gun Club looked pretty good too, in my opinion. It was funny when I think it was Dax Hardwood that got knocked out of the ring. Billy Gunn clotheslined him, and the camera was close enough, and he just said, "Suck it, bitch." That cracked me up. And then we can, if you want to keep going in the match, another spot was when Wardlow obviously came in during the match, was beating up all the backstage workers, and power bombed a worker through what JR would call a non-working table, a table that just did not break.
yeah. Just to kind of back up, like I said, FTR played the faces in that match.
Yep.
Dax got a great opportunity to showcase his singles ability last week against CM Punk.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was. I'm hoping that they will give Cash an opportunity to showcase his single ability as well. But they did. They, like I said, they had an old school feel, and Billy Gunn being with his sons, the Gun Club, just kind of adds a heel aspect to that team, and I like it. And Billy Gunn's always kind of cracked me up, especially with him going with calling them the Ass Boys. That's just a funny touch to me. So
Right.
The when Wardlow shows up and he's fucking security up, it's great. I mean, it's just he's it's very Brock Lesnar esque. Lesnar's been doing a lot of spots lately with security, with Roman and Heyman and stuff like that. And man, when he throws somebody, I mean, he's making those indie guys work for their $100 check. It is ridiculous.
Right.
Some of the way that Lesnar will just stiff throw somebody, and Wardlow was kind of doing the same thing, man. Uh, he kicked that one guy down the stairs, and I was like, oh god.
Right.
And then he threw that one guy into the trash can, and the guy was like, I don't think he was prepared to sell it. I think he was trying to sell like being thrown up against the wall, and then like the trash can was just there, and it was like shit.
Right.
So then the the MJF goes, "Where did they get these guys? They suck."
Yes,
Just
that's
yeah,
perfect.
yeah. Just it cracked me up, man. And uh, so the Wardlow segment, are we waiting until All Out? I guess
Yeah, I think that's what they're
for
doing.
MJF and Wardlow.
So when would All Out take place? Is that in end of
May,
April? Is it May?
May. Yeah,
Okay. So I mean that's kind of a long build, but I think, the build leading up to the turn was worth it. I think if they hold off until All Out, I think that'd be good.
yeah.
You know,
Well,
they can keep doing these little segments with them too, and giving FTR a little, mix them in a little bit as well. I think they could make creative content throughout until the pay per view. So
maybe it's not. Is it All Out or is it Double or Nothing? Maybe it's Double or Nothing.
actually, it is
I
double
don't
or
even
nothing
I don't
because
even know my.
because we talked about it last week about I think they broke the record for the
That's
pay per
right.
view buys, so I think it is
May.
double or nothing.
Yep. May 29th. Okay. Well, I don't even.
So it's
Here
still
we go.
2 months away from today. So
Yeah. So I mean, we've got plenty of time. So
yep.
it's just kind of I'm wondering how long they're going to do this whole, Wardlow's under contract thing. So very interesting.
Yep.
The the next was a segment or a backstage thing with, like I said, with uh,
It was Keith
the
Lee
F.
and Powerhouse Hobbs, wasn't it? Right
No,
after this match.
it was FTR. And that's when they made the comment that
Oh yeah.
they wanted to be taken seriously. And I will tell you what, man, Dak's mustache is absolutely, it's legendary.
It's
I
phenomenal. Yep.
that thing is, um as you can tell, I don't really, especially working from home now, I really don't do a whole lot. I'll do some crazy stuff with it.
Yeah.
When I very first started working from home, I was doing mutton chops. And then I did the old school Josh Elliott mustache with
The
handlebars,
Fu Manchu. Yep.
and then I just did the straight up mustache. And the I go to the barber shop next to Oriental Garden. I love those guys, and they got a female working there now. It's usually because it used to be a 2-man crew, and then they had like a 3-man crew for about maybe less than a year, and then they brought this woman in, and I told her that the mustache was to look like a 1970s cop, and she goes cop. She goes, okay. She goes, I would have used a different term, but she goes like if you say cop. So
That's hilarious.
yeah. So that, like I said, I had a small little note here to show some love to Dax's mustache. So
Absolutely.
the Keith Lee versus Hobbs. Um, they are hyping that match up, and this was one of those split screen talk shit segments. And I'm not a fan of these unless Mark Henry's in the middle. Um, so and I hate doing this because like I said, I usually love shitting on another promotion, but Hobbs claiming that Rampage is his show and Ricky Stark's show is not something to brag about. I'm going to throw that out there.
No.
I enjoy Rampage. I like Rampage, but Rampage is an hour long at 9 p.m. It for him to, and it's pre-recorded, so for him to be like, "Hey, this is our show," it's not something to brag about, Hobbs.
No.
And Keith Lee being wasted, not wasted, but I just, no, I don't expect Keith Lee to come in and get a title shot and whatnot, but I feel like up until this match, Keith Lee has had squash matches. And that's such a WWE formula that works for WWE. I don't want to see that in AEW. Don't give me, the Wardlow thing. The Wardlow thing got tiring after a while, where he would just power bomb the shit out of people and whatever. But it worked for him in MJF's story. There's no story here with Keith Lee. Keith Lee's just having a bunch of pointless matches where he's squashing people, and I'm not a fan of it. Especially Tony hyping up that signing about Keith Lee. The way Tony did, I expected to see Keith Lee doing some pretty cool shit by now. And Keith Lee's not. So I won't comment too much on it, but there's a lot of fans of AEW that are, a lot of fans of AEW would be like, man, like we're glad to see Keith Lee, we're glad to see Adam Cole. Adam Cole belongs in AEW instead of, what he would have been subjected to in WWE, and Keith Lee deserves being in AEW over what he was going to be subjected to in WWE. And then, Keith Lee comes and it's just like, okay, well, he's been here for a couple months now, so
he's here. Yeah.
What are we doing now? So it's the same thing with the, same thing earlier on we were talking about with Jay Lethal. So I'm holding out hope. Still got my fingers crossed that this AEW thing will help. This AEW purchasing or Tony Khan purchasing ROH will help expand this oversaturated roster that we have.
100%.
So,
yep. And I kind of want to touch on that a little bit. Is I agree with you on the way they've used Keith Lee. It's just like Jay Lethal, and the fact that they said that Rampage is their show, and it's not necessarily their fault. It's not correlated to them, but the last 2 weeks of Rampage, and again, this is coming from a guy who has not watched WWE in 3 years, so I shit on them all the time. But Rampage for the last 2 weeks, 2 weeks ago when they had to move their schedule to 10:30 because of the tournament, drew their worst ratings in the history of Rampage. Last week, we knew that was going to happen. We knew it. Yeah. But then last week, they drew their lowest rating in their normal time slot, 2 weeks in a row. Not saying that is, and you and I talked before, we enjoyed the main event of Rampage last week. And it's not necessarily their fault, like I said, but I'm glad it's finally happening. Keith Lee versus Powerhouse Hobbs. They've been trying to build this up, but for Keith Lee to continuously have squash matches, finally having a match that's going to mean something. I mean, I still don't think Keith Lee is going to lose this match on Friday, but I'm on board with you as well. I don't think they've used Keith Lee correctly, just like they haven't used Jay Lethal correctly since he's joined AEW.
And talking about Rampage, it's hard to it's not hard necessarily because WWE used to do it with SmackDown. When SmackDown was pre-recorded for years, WWE used to, still put on good shows with SmackDown that drew good ratings. So saying that because it's pre-recorded, I'm not gonna lean on that excuse. I think that's poor to do. And I don't think it spreads the blame around enough to Tony Khan and AEW to say Rampage feels like Thunder. Do you remember when Thunder very first came out? And when Thunder very first debuted, man, it was a hot show for like a month, 2 months. And then after that, it just went, it was good to showcase some talent, but the matches were just kind of like, the matches were all right, or the matches weren't good at all.
Yeah, they were focusing on Nitro just like they're focusing on Dynamite.
Yep. And that's my problem is Rampage feels like feels like thunder now. And it sucks. It sucks to say that, but it's um, when the roster's so oversaturated, and you're not showcasing enough people on Rampage now, or doing enough stuff on Rampage, whether it's an hour or not. Now you're trying to shove so much into Dynamite, and now you know. So, like I said, I'm crossing my fingers and I'm holding out hope that something's going to be done, as far as if Tony elects to do something in the future with this ROH thing. If he decides to split ROH out, not as as its own entity, but then say put put guys that sign people to ROH. Like, hey,
Right.
let's take Jay Lethal and let's have him go to ROH, or let's take so and so and have them go to ROH, and kind of have ROH be its own thing, and then they cross paths every once in a while with AEW. That's what I would genuinely enjoy that, if they did that. If they will, we'll see. So, crossing my fingers. Uh, the next segment, with Jericho and the Jericho Appreciation Society or Association or whatever it's called. Jericho cracked me up at the beginning. He made a comment that everybody was wanting to join the Jericho Appreciation Society, even like dirt sheet riders, and all I could think of was Meltzer and Sean Ross Sapp.
Right.
Meltzer and Sean Ross Sapp going, hey, hit me up, especially with, I guess Sean Ross Sapp is going to wrestle at a GCW event, and and he's plugging that fucking thing like crazy. So I could just, that was the first thing I thought of was Jericho, Sean Ross Sapp being like, hey, let me in.
Right.
So
Well, he also Jericho at the very beginning too. He also said that they are the revolutionary force in sports entertainment, which is a classic WWE intro
yeah,
to most of their videos. So that was good stuff.
yeah. The ending of the segment made me laugh. Um, you know, and so here's my question: Are we? Because I heard Tony Schiavone say it as well, and asked the question about like sports entertainment, or J.R. Tony Schiavone said, "Now that's sports entertainment." When like one of the guys got whacked, and I
Yeah.
was like, "Okay, so are we abusing the term sports entertainment like we abuse the term Forbidden Door?" You know, so
Yeah.
how it's okay for Jericho and those guys to use that term, because that's kind of their story, their gimmick right now is they're shitting on, or they're using the term sports entertainment. Well, the commentators are doing it now. It's like you know somebody
Yeah.
whacks somebody in the head with a chair or something, and they're like, "Oh, that's sports entertainment for you." Like, no, it's not. Like, let's
Right.
let's stop, guys.
Dial it back a
Um,
little bit.
yep. The next was Wheeler Yuta versus Bryan Danielson. Um, this match was awesome, and I think this would have been the match that I would have closed the show with. If I was booking Dynamite, I think this would have been the one that I said, "Hey, let's close out the show with this one."
Yep.
Regal came out on commentary, and which I love, like I just said, and because you know what, right now, while you're not really sure, because I mean Daniel was kind of playing Danielson was kind of playing a heel before he joined with Mox. He
Right.
had that program with Paige where he played a massive heel, and then kind of continued into it with this thing with Mox, and Mox obviously was not playing a heel. So you kind of don't know where they stand, but at the same time, then they bring Regal in, and now Regal sits at the commentary table. he doesn't go down to ringside and help them win matches or anything like that. He's not playing a heel manager, so to speak. So, it's very. I'm curious as to see, where, because like we mentioned last week, are they going to play the heels and do this thing where every single time somebody wants to join in, they're like, we're going to beat the shit out of them first,
Right.
you know. So very interested to see where that goes. But Regal got on commentary and made a comment that Bryan Danielson was the best wrestler alive today, and I thought that was cool. Especially especially with him having both Moxley and Bryan Danielson there. It was cool to hear him say that, and the match was just awesome. They Wheeler Yuta is a fantastic talent. I think
100%.
I think you give that kid a different look and kind of get him away from the best friends, and he could have something on his own. He doesn't need to be with Regal, Moxley, and Bryan. So
yeah, and that match tonight, that he was really showcased. I mean, he showed a lot of passion, and it's a hats off again also to Bryan Danielson. But I've seen a lot of good matches from Yuta over the course of since he's been in AEW, and tonight's no different. And he was really showcased throughout the entire match. For how good he can be. If he wants to, like you said, break off from the best friends and have a singles run, just him and not have anybody with him. I'm excited to see what they do with them, with him.
Yeah.
But I don't know if you got any more on this match or not. I wanted to mention that I thought it was funny, kind of disgusting in the same way, is the ending of that match when Yuta spits in Danielson's face.
Yeah.
That sets Danielson off. He kicks the shit out of him, basically, and finishes the match as spit is rolling down his face.
Yes.
That was a great look and great ending to that match.
Yeah. No, I was going to make a comment about it because Danielson still had spit hanging in his beard. Yep. And I was just like, that's so gross, guys. So fucking gross. So then after this, Cole and Red Dragon come out with the championships. So, the overplaying the heel thing here, where they've stolen the championships from the champions, and now they're like, oh, there are championships, so right. Okay. But they get in the ring, and they could have, all three of those guys can cut, they're great in the ring and they're great on the mic as well. So they got on the stick and cut a hell of a promo, and Cole made a comment, that the AEW needed a new era, which was one of the reasons why they stole the championships. And I'd have marked the fuck out if he had said an undisputed era, but he didn't. Right. I was waiting for it though, man. I got on the edge of my seat, like, say it, motherfucker.
Yeah, I thought I was going to as well.
And then Hangman Adam Page, came out. I'll tell you what. Hangman is, Hangman calling himself, a cowboy, and fucking rolling in a Tesla with Longhorns on it.
Oh, that's good stuff.
I don't know why, but that just, when I think of cowboy, and
it's not a Tesla.
Yeah, it's not a Tesla. Granted it's not a giant white limo either, like JBL used to have, but
right,
damn sure ain't a Tesla. So, but that cracked me up. So, I'll have to ask you, man. Did you so it looks like, in some sort of program, whether it's, I'm sure it'll be a main event on Dynamite, and they'll run it back a couple of times. I'm sure we're going to get a 6-man tag of some sort, with Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus and Hangman Adam Page against Adam Cole and Red Dragon.
Mm-hmm.
I got to tell you, man, I really thought it would be the Bucks and Page against Red Dragon and Cole, and I'm a little disappointed it's not. I will bring up, because I forgot to mention this earlier, that speaking of the Bucks, the FTR challenged the Bucks in that promo after their match.
Oh, yep,
when they were like, "Hey, we want to be taken more seriously," and I'm like, "Really? The guys that showed up in Mexico wrestling and made a mockery while they took the AAA titles, and now they want to be taken seriously?" But yeah, they're going to challenge the Bucks, and so yeah, like I said, the whole thing with the Adam Page and Red Dragon and Adam Cole, I thought we would get Bucks and Page versus Red Dragon and Adam Cole, and we're not, or at least right now. You would have to think at some point you'd have to think at some point it's gonna happen. Whether it's the Bucks and Kenny or the Bucks and Page.
I'm thinking it's eventually going to be Kenny when his return. That's when it's going to happen.
Yeah. Speaking of Kenny, they mentioned that they've talked. They haven't mentioned. They've talked that it's still going to be quite a while before he comes back. So that he's still got to have another surgery done.
Yeah, I did hear that.
Yeah,
I did hear that.
He had like 3 different surgeries on like 3 different body parts.
Right.
So it wasn't like hey, I'm having a surgery on a shoulder and then, going to let it heal up and then have a surgery on it again to kind of, tighten up some loose ends. No, it's like I'm having hip surgery, or he's like having a hernia surgery and then a shoulder surgery and then something else too.
Right.
I think like his knee or something. So. The Tony, they went to commercial after Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus and Hangman Adam Page were able to clear the ring of Undisputed Era, and then they came back and Tony was interviewing Thunder Rosa, and Thunder Rosa talks about being the face of the women's. Not just being the face of the women's division in AEW, but in all of wrestling. I'll tell you what, man. I watch quite a few other wrestling content creators, like with podcasts and stuff. Mm-hmm. There is not a whole lot of people happy that it's Thunder Rosa and Nyla Rose.
No, I can see why.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. They need her to face a bad guy, especially somebody big like Nyla.
An overpowering heel. Yeah,
an overpowering heel against your baby face. Yep. But there's a lot of other people that they could have chosen, I guess. And I agree with. And Nyla cuts a promo later on, and I will. I'm not going to talk about it very long. We'll kind of skim through it, but I will tell you that Nyla does not need to have the microphone.
No,
she needs to let Vicky. She needs to let Vicky do the talking for her.
Yeah.
And that's my opinion. She is just she tries to sound like the big scary monster heel, and it's not working for her. So.
She does that, and then in the same sentence, instead of Thunder Rosa, she calls her Thunturd Rosa in the same sentence. And we want to take her seriously as being a giant heel. So, also, when I don't want to spend too much time on this, but she also pulled the Stone Cold in her promo as well. So, like, you 100% give the microphone to Vicky Guerrero and whatever. Go ahead.
I'm so fucking sorry, man. I had to mute my microphone. I don't know if I didn't have my TV loud enough or if I turned her out or tuned her out, but I did not hear the thun turd part.
No, she enunciated and made sure you could hear thun turd, Rosa.
That's great. I love it.
But speaking of women's wrestlers, what do we got on tap next?
What we have on tap next is going to be the Bunny versus the mystery opponent, the newly signed talent to AEW for the women's portion of the Owen Hart tournament. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. That is correct, right? They're having a women's tournament and a men's tournament.
That is correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. This is for the Owen Hart. Yeah, Owen Hart women's section of the Owen Hart tournament. Yep.
I wanted to make sure. I figured that's what it was, but I was like, well, I wonder why they didn't start the men's and the women's at the same time. Maybe because from my understanding, I thought the men or the tournament. I don't know if it's the men's or the women's, but the tournament was supposed to, conclude at Double or Nothing, right?
Double or Nothing. And I think it is. Yeah, it'll probably start next week. I would assume the men's.
Okay. But the newly signed talent was Toni Storm. So that was a shock to me. I mean, I know there was a few choices on the table. There was Tegan Knox from NXT UK and NXT, Toni Storm, and Athena, who is Ember Moon. Those were the three speculated people. I didn't see Toni Storm, and you and I mentioned this off air. I didn't expect to see Toni Storm because Toni Storm has been extremely successful in her other ventures. Yeah. So I just didn't see her. I didn't see her, frothing at the bit to jump back into the ring. That's kudos to her. That's awesome. I'm happy to see her back. I'm a huge fan of Toni Storm. I just, like I said, over the news of her making a lot of money doing other ventures, I thought, well, she doesn't need to jump back into the ring so quick. So, but
no,
cool.
but yeah, and I'm extremely excited to see her in AEW because, as we said earlier, AEW does not have a very adverse, or not really adverse, but very, compared to WWE, the women's division isn't as good as WWE is at the moment. And I think adding Toni Storm, I was shocked that they released her, and I'm not 100% sure why they were released. I'm sure there was reasons, but Toni Storm has been one of my favorite women's wrestlers, dating all the way back to before the Mae Young Classic. I was watching her in the Indies, and when she got into the Mae Young Classic, I was excited to see her. And then when she got into NXT, and now in AEW, I'm extremely excited to see what they do with her. And there's a lot of good talent there that they could put her against. That would be good matchups, I think.
I agree. I think that this will help the women's division for them. So, she looked in great shape too. Yep. She looked in phenomenal shape. It looks like she, did a lot of, kept in wrestling shape and was still, working while she was, at home. So that's, I'm a huge Toni Storm fan too. Like I said, I was a huge fan of her in NXT UK and there was times where I preferred NXT UK over NXT and so I'm excited to see her there. And and see how AEW can move forward with this women's division. So,
Yep.
'cause, I heard somebody say, it's not green anymore. You can't use that excuse. It's been around for 2 years. There's women on this roster that have been there since the company opened doors. So, it's time to get this thing going. So,
Yep.
the after this was the Nyla promo. We already covered that. No reason to. The main event was good. I enjoyed this main event. Like I said, I would have moved the matches around. I just would have ended the show with Yuta and Brian Danielson instead of Andrade and Darby. But Andrade in the main event was a nice touch because I want to see Andrade showcase more, in the lower end of the card, towards the main event, if not in the main event. So, I know that's kind of contradicting what I just said, but it's how I feel.
No, and I'm glad that they gave them, plenty of time. I mean, it was like a 15, 14-minute match. I'm not sure exactly the time, but I remember when that match started, I looked at my, the meter on my iPad, and it was 15, 14-minute match. So they gave them plenty of time to get all their stuff in.
Yeah, and it was good. Andrade got to showcase, without making Darby look weak. Darby still got to showcase himself. They did a good job, and I'll tell you what, when I always forget Andrade's manager's name, but man, when he was coming down the ramp and Sting came out from behind him, to take him out, he almost wiped out.
Yeah, I noticed that too.
Yeah, when he hit him, he almost wiped himself out. So I was like, there we go. So
right.
They then Andrade with the win.
Yep.
I think that this was a must win for Andrade. They've Darby's young. Darby's going to get opportunities. Andrade, and you can attest to this. When we went to NXT, and I was harping on Andrade a lot from the crowd. I was not an Andrade fan at all.
Yeah.
I thought he was boring, and I didn't like him. Fast forward a few months after that, they put him in the title picture, and we got to see, shit, dude. Him and Johnny Gargano, and him and Aleister Black, Malachi Black are probably two of the greatest matches in NXT Black and Gold of all. So I have done a complete 180 on my stance on Andrade, and Andrade is where he needs to be. He needs to be in the main event, and he needs to be winning, and sooner rather than later. Within 2022, I need to see Andrade challenge for the title at some point. No matter who it is, whether it's Cole, Page, or CM Punk, or whoever. I got to see Andrade challenge for the title.
So, do you think the world title is where he needs to go, and not the TNT?
No. I think Scorpio Sky is perfectly for the TNT Championship, and that kind of does it for our Dynamite show. Other than the Hardys coming out at the end, which was kind of, I don't know why they waited for the Hardys to come out. It was kind of like one of those things where I was like, okay, let's bring the Hardys out, because I know
it took too long.
I was like, why are we waiting? Like, let's bring the Hardys out. Like, we know they're coming. So, but no, so overall, a great show. or I don't want to say great. I don't want to, I don't want that to come out the wrong way, but it was a good show, and I enjoyed it as usual. I always enjoyed Dynamite, but what I would like to see, since we just talked about the TNT Championship, I'd like to see Ethan Page turn on Scorpio Sky and them feud for the TNT Championship. That's what I would like to see. I would like to see, um, I think Scorpio could play the better face than Ethan could. Um, and I would like to see kind of, watch Scorpio kind of do a 180 once Ethan turns on him, and Scorpio play a good baby face and have a feud with Ethan Page with, Dan Lambert and Paige Van Zandt. That's what I'd like to see.
So. And Dan Lambert with the other half of the TNT title.
Yeah.
That would be right. Good. Yeah.
There you go. Oh my God, dude! Dan Lambert could still have the other title.
Yep.
And then Ethan Page could be like, "Well, just give it to me," so then I could be the TNT champion as well. And then Tony Khan or somebody or Scorpio could be like, hey, we just got word from, Tony Khan. Tony Khan says you can't, that title is null and void now. It's useless. You've got to beat me for this TNT championship. And then they have a big, run it back. Yeah. I don't care. Like that's hilarious, dude.
So we should be booking this show, is what you're saying.
We should be booking every show. I don't know what you're talking about. Speaking of booking, we're getting out of here, so it's gonna we're finishing up here. Man, look at this, dude. We did it in an hour and 10 minutes.
We did a little quicker than last week.
A little bit quicker. I wanted to make sure that it was structured and we stayed on track, and I didn't get too off track, which I tend to do on these things. So we'll finish up a little bit here. Like I said, my goal is on here to talk about local stuff. So again, we will plug the fact that we are going to DWF. And is it DWF No Turning Back?
Yeah, I think that's what the show is called, and it's DWF Dynamic Wrestling Federation, and it's based in Kansas City, Missouri. I do want to also plug too. I know the DWF is also a plug, but they also work hand in hand and closely with another promotion in Kansas City called Journey Pro. They run a lot of their Kansas City local guys as well. So both promotions are very good Kansas City independent wrestling scenes. So
yeah, and the event is called No Turning Back. It's on April 9th. Josh and I are going to attend.
Yep.
I'll be promoting CR Media there and having a good time, man. Since I can't go to Dallas, and that this is going to be my trip to No Turning Back is going to be my trip to Dallas. So,
yep. Chase and I are going April. Was it April 9th? April. Yep. So the DWF. Also, it was announced on Dynamite tonight that on June 8th, Dynamite is coming to Kansas City at the Cable Dahmer Arena. So, sure enough, both of us are going to be in attendance somewhere in that arena. So,
yeah, that's right. That's right. That's a small arena, man. How many does that hold?
I think for Dynamite last time it was the capacity of like 5,500, roughly. So it's nowhere near like what Kemper used to do for WWE events and the T-Mobile Center, but
yeah.
It looks, when the production value of AEW, they make it look big. So even though it's only 5,000 people, it looks like it's a jam-packed, huge arena. So
yeah, no, it does pretty good when AEW comes. So it definitely fills up. It fills up a hell of a lot more than when NXT would go. Which, when they used to do the NXT ones, man, it used to break my heart because it would be like. I'd be like, well, I mean, shit, dude. Dynamite has this will be the third time in 2 years
Yeah.
that Dynamite has come to has come to the Independence, the Silverstein or the Cable Dahmer Arena, whatever fucking name it is now. So that's crazy, man. And then like with NXT, what we got two, I think we got two events in like 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
And that's like I said, that's what sucked, and it broke my heart. I was like, they're not going to come back if we can't if they can't put enough asses in seats here. So
Yeah, the attendance was very low for NXT. It sucked, but
yep.
wrestling was good there. So I've always loved NXT. So
Yeah, I think a lot of it had to do with it wasn't televised, but whatever. But so that's that. The Kansas City promotion. If you're into independent wrestling, you can check out DWF and Journey Pro. I know Journey Pro is pretty popular. They got Warhorse there, and uh, Warhorse is extremely popular on the independent scene.
yeah, he was the internet wrestling independent wrestling champion. I think is what they called that, and he went around to different promotions and defended that title. So yeah.
But definitely check DWF out. Like I said, they got some former ROH wrestlers. They've got some other independent wrestlers that they hang out there. Speaking of booking, I will promote. There will be a new episode of Bad Booking coming out this week. I am writing solo on it until my co-host comes back from the dead. And when that happens, we'll do a 2-man crew. But for the time being, Bad Booking is going to be what it was meant to be, and that's just a podcast. So I'll be doing the podcast, the audio of it. There will be a little bit of a video on my YouTube channel, but Bad Booking will be strictly a podcast. I won't be doing a live for that or anything. Other than that, we will. You can catch the AEW Dynamite post show presented by yours truly and my friend here, Josh Elliott, every Wednesday at 9:15 after Dynamite. Other than that, the only thing left to say is good fight, good night.
See you later.